Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko Owoko and I am a lover of arts, culture and everything African. And here we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities and industry experts. Come with me, you're now a VIP. This is what to expect on this week's episode.
Well, the British Council invited me down to DJ the King's birthday to represent the best of British music and culture. And besides that, also here to see what else Kenya and Nairobi has to offer when it comes to their music, their creative side, their media. And it's been a joy so far. You know, it's one of those bookings that you don't really know what to expect when you've been asked to DJ at the King's birthday. But it was vibes, man. Everyone was there dancing. There was no right or wrong.
Just from my short experience in, Nairobi specifically, I think the talent here is impeccable. I think something I've seen is almost like a lack of confidence in some people, almost thinking like, oh, we don't have our sound, or, Nigeria have this, Ghana have this.
Hey guys, what's up? It's always great to have your company. I'm glad to be back here for yet another amazing episode. This week, we're stepping away from industry talks just a little bit, and we're going to be going into another event called the Creative Hustle by the British Council. So recently, I received a special invite from the good people at the British Council, the East Africa Arts team, to co-curate an event and conversation that brought forward an amazing guy who I absolutely had never heard of. And being someone in the industry, I'm just like, where was I all this time? So we're going to have Jeremiah Asiamah on the podcast this week. The South London DJ is actually originally from Ghana. You can hear the name Asiamah, right? And he's a renowned broadcaster who had come to Kenya to perform at the King's birthday. But the great people at British Council were like, why would he come all the way to Kenya and just go back to the UK? So when they reached out to me, they asked me to co-curate an event with them that would bring together some of the movers and shakers in Nairobi's music and fashion world to meet Jeremiah Asiamah, so we can just converse about how things work in Nairobi and in London, and hopefully chat a way forward, especially when it comes to collaborating between the two cities and two countries. So we had a really nice conversation, which we're going to be broadcasting on the podcast this week. A little bit about Jeremiah. Jeremiah is also widely recognized and celebrated for the work that he's done at the BBC Radio and BBC One Extra. He continues to be committed to connecting cultures through music. And you ask about his mission. It's simply to amplify African sound to the global stage and create meaningful bridges between creative communities. Let's get straight into it.
Firstly, what an incredible host, by the way. Yeah, round of applause.
Thank you.
So my name is Jeremiah Asiamah. I'm a DJ and presenter on BBC Radio 1 and 1 Extra. I have two shows on Radio 1 at the moment and a show on 1 Extra. I also work with fashion brands. I've produced music fashion brands like Prada. I run an event, which is like we celebrate like dance music, Afro music. We've had artists like Robin M, Zakes Bentwini, also Mo Black, that's to name a few. And I just love to champion new artists from all around the world, and give a platform. And Kenya is, so far from my experience, a very beautiful country inside and out. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, the British Council invited me down to DJ the King's birthday to represent the best of British music and culture. And besides that, also here to see what else Kenya and Nairobi has to offer when it comes to their music, their creative side, their media. And it's been a joy so far. You know, it's one of those bookings that you don't really know what to expect when you've been asked to DJ at the King's birthday. But it was vibes, man. Everyone was there dancing. There was no right or wrong. We played Afro beats, we played dancehall, played high life, and everyone was up for a good time. It was great.
I've only been doing fashion for the last 12 to 24 months. If you had told me in the last 24 months that I'll be working with Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man to this day, and making soundtracks for Prada, who's one of the biggest, fashion houses in the whole entire world, working with Topshop and Topman, I would never believe you, but it comes down to being confident in who you are as a brand when you wear clothes. And I think clothes and fashion have a massive part to play in music, When you hear records, they inspire you the way you want to dress, go to the club, meet people, move the girls, move the guys, wherever it may be. Like, fashion is so important to me, and I think to every single person that makes music. And it should be, because, when you step out on that stage, it's you, the artist, but also, your brand.
Yeah, there's also an important thing I heard you mention today as we're going throughout the day, and you talked about representation when it comes to cultural exchange.
I think cultural exchange is important, but what I think is more important than cultural exchange is cultural representation. Because once you know who you are and your worth, no one can tell you anything. I think one thing I've learned, and this isn't based on people in this room, but just from my short experience in, Nairobi specifically, I think the talent here is impeccable. I think something I've seen is almost like a lack of confidence in some people, almost thinking like, oh, we don't have our sound, or, oh, Nigeria have this, Ghana have this, or
like the DJ lady who we met, and she said, I don't consider myself a DJ.
Yeah.
But you were like, you are a radio
but I was
DJ.
like, you're a disc
play music,
jockey.
you are a
This
DJ.
is my thing, and you don't have to wait for someone to give you an approval before you know your worth. And I think once you know your worth, no one can tell you anything, like I'm saying. So I think, even like with me, like even my boss, I'm not gonna mention who, but when I first joined the BBC, they were like, maybe you should just call yourself Jeremiah or Jerry A, or because Jeremiah Asiamah is a bit too long and not everyone can relate to it. And at first I was like, maybe I should, because, not everyone understands or knows how to pronounce my surname. But then a DJ called Clara Amfo, who was also Ghanaian, she said to me, do for the people who don't see the names in the shops. And that really hit home for me, because I was like, if there can be one person who sees me and sees my name and was like, whoa, that's a Ghanaian person, or that's someone from Africa who is DJing in front of 90,000 people at Wembley Stadium with his name, then I can do it as well. And I think, yeah, like, we have so much power. Forget our music, but in our voices alone as Africans. And the whole world wants a bit of our sauce. They want it every day. We know this. Like, think about it. Tyler's Water, she came from SA. Sophia Nazar's and Waki came from, Kenya, Nairobi.
Yeah.
There's so many different genres. I can just name it top of my head. It all starts in Africa. If you really want to go there.
I think Kenya, Nairobi, just the country itself is just phenomenal. Even in my short time here, I get the presence of just community. Everyone's happy. The food is incredible. And also, I also learned that, Kenya's most listened to genre is gospel music. And me growing up on gospel and how gospel music makes me feel, it's happy, it's joy, it's loving everybody, no matter what part of life experiences you have. And that being Kenya's most listened to genre is a clear representation of the country. It's wholesome. There's always potential. When you look at artists like Sophia Nazar, who has had a global hit by, representing her native language, you can see it's possible for so many more upcoming singers, rappers, even producers, and just being able to connect with so many different artists as well. It just shows that Kenya has a wide pool of talent waiting to explore the world and show the world what Kenya is made of. So one thing that's really exciting me about Kenya right now is that they're taking the old sound of kabuka, which I've learned is, fast tempo Swahili, taking the instrumental of that and pulling it over like Afro-house music, electronic music. So it's kind of like the old merging with the new. And as we know, like Afro-house electronic music is something that is thriving in Kenya. So I'm really looking forward to see how that's going to progress, and also how we could maybe even hear that old genre in the UK, because it's possible. For me, as someone who loves house music, it always feels way more authentic to me and more closer to home when I hear, the African dialect, the tone in our voices, the way we carry ourselves on vocals. And, even just being in Kenya for the last day and a half, hearing people speak, it excites me because it's a different tone. So it'd be really exciting to work with more Kenyan artists. And whether it's making music with them or giving them a platform on the radio to showcase their talent as well. I see Kenya as like the new age Africa, There's so many different parts of Africa where you go there and it's not what people would typically expect an African country to be like, We've got the cool clubs, we've got the new tech, we've got the fashion, and young people are running the towns, They are at the forefront of culture. And I feel like anybody in the UK who is interested in coming to Kenya, whether it's for musical purposes or for entertainment, you're going to be surprised in a good way, because you're going to almost, like I say, experience London, but in a Kenyan style, you know? The nightlife is incredible. The music is great. The people are equally as great as everything I've been mentioned. So coming to Kenya has to be on your bucket list if it's not already on there. I mean, so I've been in Kenya for a day and a half. So it's quite hard to, in a day and a half, have an experience that's going to change my direction. However, saying that, it has put me onto a few things that Kenyans are doing, like the Kabuka mixing into the Afro-house, and also big shout out to Studio Cam and Jesse, who are, you know, creating their own community radio station platform, which is all about empowering upcoming artists and DJs. So I think just seeing that alone is going to give me how those specific people and platforms are building, because what they're building is something that can be global and really give Kenyans an even bigger platform. So I can see Kenya and the UK, you know, exchanging creatives by, you know, throwing more events together, or inviting DJs from Kenya to come to the UK, or UK DJs come to Kenya. For example, off the top of my head, one DJ who's been really doing this thing in the UK, especially in the Afro-house world, his name is called Robin M. He's DJing in Kenya. You know, there's been DJs like UG, you know, who've come to the UK and vice versa. So I think that is always a great link, because once you're in each other's companies and you're playing on the same stages, you build a rapport both on and off the stage, which can lead to the studio. And then before you know, you're sharing contacts and you're making records, and that record is showcasing the exchange of what the UK and Kenya can create individually, but also together. And nothing is more powerful than two countries coming together. You saw it at the King's, you know, birthday. I came here from London to represent the UK, but also represent Kenya, you know, and being an African. So I think that's how we do it, you know, is by inviting each other into our own spaces, but also welcoming people, you know, not making it feel like one country is better than the other, you know. And exchange isn't about which value is better. Both bring value to the table. So that's how I view it. I think from the short time I've had in Kenya, and thanks to the British Council as well, is that I've gotten to see what Kenya is about, and also how much growth there is to be had here. But I think with a lot of artists in Kenya so far, from my experience, is realizing how beautiful it is to be a Kenyan, and realizing the power in their voice and their music, because their music speaks volumes, you know. I've been singing this song on repeat, like, all my enemies are suffering. And I was like, that song, it feels so empowering, you know. Like if I was Kenyan, that'd be my ringtone every day. And there's such a beautiful energy to being a Kenyan. And I just want people to remember that, like, your voice is your sound, you know? And that travels more than anything you do in life.
I meet a lot of people who want it, but they don't really want it. And when I say that is that when they get turned down, or when they get a no, or when they think this is it and it turns out not to be as big as it is, they think that this is not meant to be for them. But really, truly, I knew in my heart how much I loved radio. I love radio so much. Like, radio's brought me to tears. Like, so I know how much I love it. And because of that feeling, I knew this was my destiny. And I think that's what helped build my confidence, is knowing that this is my life. You know, I told myself, no matter how long it takes, I'm not going to give up, you know? And all it takes is for one person. One something that needs to be killed is that you need to have it all together before you send music out. I think you don't. As long as you have your music, a bit about you, and good music, that is it. Now, that might sound like that's everything, Jerry. It's not, because in some people's eyes, the whole package is having a whole inside brand, having more than 10,000 followers, being verified. Forget all that. That's superficial. The thing that matters the most is your art form. So I think that's the one thing I think needs to be killed, is thinking that you need to have it all together before you have it together. One thing I want you to realize is your worth and the power in your voice. Your voice alone is infectious. Your voice has led you to have house hits which have dominated the charts, from the likes of Sophia Nazal. I think that is a clear testament, and I know I'm only mentioning one individual, but it's a clear testament to how far your voice can go. And don't ever limit yourself to feeling like you don't have your sound, you don't have your voice. Your voice is you. And I think Kenya is a country and a nation that is going to continue thriving worldwide. And I mean that as well, by the way. Not just saying it, I genuinely mean it.
Industry Talks also rolled out workshops this year. So please check out Gote Institute to know when's the next workshop. If it suits you or somebody, you'll be able to share it with them. Our next event is going to be 22nd of May. We're going to be discussing the future of Nairobi nightlife. We have a fire panelists, group of people, amazing people, some DJs. So we're going to go back deep into the music industry. So we hope to see you here. That's what VIP Access is all about, getting you inside the rooms where culture is being shaped in real time. We've come to the end of this episode. I want to thank Jeremiah Asiamah so much for being so graceful. Thank you so much to the British Council team for the opportunity, and of course, Black Market Africa, who helped me produce this specific episode. It's been amazing talking to Jeremiah Asiamah, and I hope somebody was listening and is going to be able to bridge their talent and art between Kenya and London. Next week, we're going to be back with an amazing episode. Stick around and please follow us on social media, Anyiko, Owoko, Industry Talks, and Gote Institute. We'll be going back to our original format, which is Industry Talks for Season 5 of VIP Access. And as always, we thank you for your time and company. This episode was brought to you by the British Council East Africa Arts and was part of their UK Kenya Season 2025. VIP Access Season 5 is proudly supported by the Gote Institute, Nairobi.